Hello everyone, Bard here, and welcome to a special event called Don Bluth Month. All throughout the month of March, I'll be reviewing movies directed by Don Bluth, but only the ones from the 80s, since they're the most well-known, the most loved, and the only ones that get sequels and or TV series. So the first film I'm reviewing is his first feature-length film, which got a sequel 16 years later, but this one's still beloved by many. And the film is The Secret of NIMH. The movie's based on the book Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH by Robert C. O'Brien, but at the time of the movie's post-production, the main character's name was changed to Brisby instead of Frisby to avoid confusion of the Whammo toy Frisby. A field mouse named Mrs. Brisby is trying to take care of her sick son named Timothy, and wants to find a way to move her family from being plowed without harming her ill son. Her aunt advises her to see the great owl, who in turn tells her to see the rats who live in a thorn bush in the farmer's yard, where she meets a wise old rat named Nicodemus, who explains that her husband, Jonathan, was part of a group of experimental animals at the National Institute of Mental Health, or NIMH, and that Jonathan helped the rats escape after the experiments, which made them smart. But Brisby only wants her family to be safe, so all the rats help out in moving her family to a safer location, while another rat named Jenner is trying to sabotage the rats' plans of relocating to a place known as Thorn Valley, where they won't steal anything. So what do I think of this movie? Well, I find it to be a good film, but there is one problem I have with it. It's minor, but it's kind of a major thing. And that problem is the characters. It's not their design, it's not their personality, it's not even their voices. It's their development. What I mean by it is that they're pretty rushed and not much is given to the secondary or villain characters to understand what they're like. And while some do work, like Jeremy's trying to be helpful yet he's clumsy, and Brisby's very timid in front of danger yet she still comes out okay, despite the fact that she still has fears of being in danger. It's just that there's not much time devoted to the other characters. It might be minor, but it's major to me. And while the story is easy to follow, it can get complex at certain points. Like how does the great owl know about Jonathan, or what does the inscription on the back of the stone could mean since it's not brought up anyplace else, etc. They aren't that big of a deal, yet it's so vague that I can't quite tell how these things came to be. I can understand how the rats came to be, but everything else isn't brought up enough. However, the animation and the soundtrack are pretty good and impressive. Of course, being Don Bluth animation, it has very flowing movements and great artwork. The animation is always really good to look at. And the film even has a dark tone to it, with moments of frightening images and even harsh fights and deaths. Now then, why does the film have a G rating even though there's clearly shots of blood being shown? That I'll never know. The soundtrack itself by Jerry Goldsmith is nice to listen to. It can be sweet, it can be intense, it can be comedic, and it can be thrilling. And the film's only song, Flying Dreams, has a very sweet melody to it and a calming and relaxing feel to it all. But all the actors voicing the characters did a pretty good job at best. Derek Jacobi voices Nicodemus, Elizabeth Hartman voices Mrs. Brisby, Arthur Mallet voices Mr. Ages, Dom DeLuise voices Jeremy, Hermione Baddeley voices Auntie Shrew, Shannon Dorothy voices Teresa, Will Wheaton voices Martin, John Conradine voices the Great Owl, Peter Strauss voices Justin, and Paul Sheener voices Jenner. Now I couldn't find photographs of the actors who did the voices of Cynthia and Timothy, but their names are Jody Hicks and Ian Freed. So let's go into my overall thoughts of the film. As a whole, this movie is good. The characters are all good, the story is good, and the animation is really impressive. And even though certain elements do bother me a bit, like the character developments and whatnot, it's still a good film, even with its minor problems. And its great animation, good voiceover work, sweet song and music, complex yet easy to follow storyline, and dark tone makes the movie an interesting watch from time to time. So today, this movie will get a rating of 3 stars. Thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and tune in next week for more of Don Bluth Month.